It is Champ Week, and Section YY8 is here for all of it. It is the best time of year, Harb. The next, I think, 4 to 5 weeks we've talked about is the best 5 weeks of, in my opinion, IMHO of the sports year. You've got conference championships starting tonight, all the way through next Sunday. And then you've got the NCAA tournament for the next 3 weeks. Then you've got the Masters right after that. It doesn't get any better than this.
No, and we got delivered from darkness this weekend.
Yes, thank God.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, and we got blue balled today, which is Sunday. First day that we got an extra hour of daylight later. It was overcast all day.
it hurt this morning waking up though. You lost that hour of sleep, but it's worth it in the long run.
Yeah, it was brutal. I was dragging today, but it's a
Yeah.
small price to pay for to be delivered from Bane. I was
Darkness
not,
is
I was not born in the darkness.
darkness is not our ally.
No, no,
I didn't even try to adopt it.
no. I was not molded by it either.
But I did see it when I was just a child. Anyways, way off topic there. I'm Negative Niece. That's Harb. If, for those that don't know us, our faces or our voices, if you're listening or watching us, you can see us if you're watching us, and you can hear us if you're listening to us. So, welcome aboard. It is Champ Week. The Vols are ready to go dancing unofficially. We'll get to that here shortly, but what we're going to do is recap the Vols week last week, an eventful one in a lot of different ways for a lot of different reasons. An eventful week in the basketball world last week, and then we'll look ahead at the SEC tournament, which starts this coming Wednesday in Nashville at the historic Bridgestone Arena there in downtown Nashville on Broadway. So, Harb, I guess let's start with let's go back to all the way back to Wednesday night. Feels like it's been a whole week or two since that game on Wednesday night, but the Vols lost 78-76 to the Ole Miss Rebels in Oxford. We said it would be a tough game, and it delivered. It was actually, if you weren't a fan of either team and just sit back and watch, it's like the Alabama game on Saturday before that. It was a really entertaining basketball game. A lot of intensity, a lot of emotion on both sides, a little bit of drama in there. So, if you were just a college basketball fan, it was great. But if you were a fan of two of the teams, it was a little heart wrenching there. And then at the end, it was heartbreaking for the Vols. But what's your thoughts on that game? Tennessee came up short, had opportunities, just couldn't find a way in the end.
Yeah, it was kind of a perfect storm as far as how we lost that game. Uh, it was a great game. In my opinion, I don't know if we necessarily lost the game. I just think Ole Miss beat us. Made some really tough shots. They had some guys step up and carried more weight than they normally do, especially Mr. Brakefield coming off the bench and dropping, what was it, 23 in the second half alone.
Yeah.
He was throwing some stuff up that you were like, okay, that's not going in. It did. And obviously, we forgot the box out on the final play, which we'll get into here in just a second. Um, but yeah, it was a great game. And non biasly, that was a lot of things. That's what's awesome about college basketball. The Brakefield kid, senior, it's on senior night in Oxford. He's from Jackson, Mississippi. He started off at Duke and came back to Ole Miss because he wanted to be at home. And then he drops 23 in the last like 16 minutes or something. He didn't have a point before then. Yeah, it's cool. And we were down 4 with a minute left. It looked like we were dead. Igor Milicic, huge 4-point play. Gets us right back in it.
The old fashioned way.
The old fashioned 4 points. Uh, and then I believe the ensuing Ole Miss possession, We forced a miss off three. It hits the rim about 17 times. I honestly thought it was going in, just the way
Yeah.
that game went. It gets batted around for some reason. We don't put a single body on the guy that's absolutely killed us in the second half. And very fittingly, he was the one that laid it in with 3 seconds left to take the lead. And then after that, we drew up a hell of a play. Faked the handoff back to Ziegler, I think it was.
I think so, yeah.
Milicic gets a great look, slips out of his hands. I have zero ill will towards him whatsoever. Just one of those shitty things that happens every once in a while. Hate that it happened last play of the game. But yeah, come up short, miss a bunny, had a little bit of slippage. It was a heartbreaker. I think we're kind of had an emotional hangover after that victory against Bama. But I knew this game. I knew this game would be tough. Anytime you're playing anybody coached by Chris Beard, like it's not going to be easy at all. Um, but yeah, it sucked, but it wasn't the end of the world, you know. Um, yeah. What you got for us on that?
Yeah, I was worried about this game. I mean, Ole Miss is a good team. Whether I kept seeing again, this is the same stuff I kept seeing after we lost to Kentucky, and it drove me crazy when I couldn't go to sleep Wednesday night. One, because the game went so late. I was drinking Dr. Pepper trying to stay awake, and but people were getting on the message board, social media. I can't believe Tennessee lost to this Ole Miss team. What are you talking about? Like, I almost want to do a haters and losers segment on some of our fan base. They keep saying we lost to that team. All Tennessee had to do was beat Ole Miss and South Carolina, and we'd be a 1 seed. But we lost to that Ole Miss team. Guys, that Ole Miss team is top 30. They're probably going to be a 6 or 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. There is no shame losing to that team on the road on their senior night. That game, I don't know if you got to watch it, Harb, but that arena was hot all night long. I mean, their fans were
Yeah, it was loud.
wild. It was
It was loud.
loud. Not an easy place to play in an atmosphere like that. And I thought the Vols didn't. I didn't think they played all that poorly. They just got beat. Sometimes you just get beat.
The I think the stretch that lost us the game. Now we had the lead after this, but the stretch that lost us the game. I think we went 6.5 minutes without a field goal,
Mhm.
and that was also in the stretch where that Breakfield kid had like 9 or 11 in a row, and they went on like a I don't know, it was like 11-3 run or 11-4 run or something, and that's what got the crowd hot.
Yeah.
They never cooled off. I will give their fans all the credit in the world. They were ready to roll.
I'm trying to look it up. What didn't we go up by like 9 or okay, here we are. We're up 8. But that's with 18 minutes to go. I felt like we got it up to like 7 or 8 again at one point later in the half and just could not. Okay, here we're up 7 with 10 minutes to go. But I felt like it was later than that we kind of pushed it out, but just could never get.
I think we went up by 5 with less than 5 minutes left, and that might be what you're thinking of.
Let's see. Yeah, it may be what it was. Let's see. Ole Miss was up 2, 4, 2, 1, 0. I mean, I guess I wasn't imagining things because here it's tied at with 7 minutes to go. We were up 3 with 7.5 minutes to go. Anyways, it was Ole Miss just beat Tennessee. You know, I'm not mad at any one single player. The only frustrating thing to me, and I don't know, I didn't go back and watch the game, but I was a little frustrated in where was Chaz Lanier in the second half. And I'll say this about the South Carolina game. I text some people on Saturday. I said, "Where's Chaz Lanier?" I didn't know he was out on the floor at one point against South Carolina. But I said the same thing against Ole Miss. And I was like, "Where's Chaz Lanier at?" And I think he took one or two shots in the second half. That can't happen. And I don't know if that's him not looking for the ball or the defense is so focused on him, they're taking it away and giving it to somebody else. I don't know. All I know is that for Tennessee to be successful, that cannot happen. It doesn't matter if they're playing South Carolina or Duke. Chaz Lanier cannot go silent and vanish. He's too good of a player. He's too good of a shooter. That can't happen. It just can't.
I'm not. I mean, I'm not putting any blame on Lanier. When you
I'm not.
drop
I'm not either. But I'm
when
just
you
saying
drop
it
16
aggravated me.
when you drop 16 or 17 in the first half, and Jordan Gainey legitimately is the only guy you really got to worry about in ISO situations outside of Lanier, you're going to get extra focus on Lanier. So, like, just about every time he got it, he had a guy on his hip and another guy floating on him halfway between him and the guy he was guarding. So, all the defensive attention was on the side of the court that he was on. So, I mean, yeah, you're not going to get a ton of shots off because he's not going to force something out of a double team. I don't blame him for that. At that point, it's on somebody else to step up and hit a bucket, which did not happen for 7 or 8 minutes. So that's that's kind of what we've talked about for the majority of the season is when Lanier is off or when the defense is just committed to absolutely shutting him down. Who's gonna step up?
Kind of
And
been
sometimes
gain. It's kind of been gainy lately.
it has been. He's got a little bit of that dog in him, especially on the offensive side. But I need to say one thing about Chris Beard, and this was the main takeaway I had from the game. And in my opinion, he's top 10 coach in the country. He's a phenomenal basketball coach. Personal life aside, phenomenal basketball coach. When he put Brakefield in, at first Akpar was guarding him, and he knew that Akpar could not guard him on the dribble or off the dribble. He didn't. That's when he had 7 in a row. He had a couple and ones. It was either driving from the elbow or driving from three. Well, Brakefield, I believe, is essentially a four-man most of the time. They went four guards with Brakefield because he knew Barnes wasn't going to take Okpara out, and you're not going to put Okpara on a 6'4" guard. He pretty much forced Barnes' hand to put Okpara on Brakefield, and then Barnes finally took Okpar out, and I believe Milicic was playing the five. I think we went small as well, and we ended up having Meshack guard Brakefield.
Nashak was on him too.
And that's our two best defenders outside of Ziegler. And when Meshack was on him, Brakefield just bullied him because he's 50 pounds heavier. In my opinion, it was a master class from Beard, just as far as matchups go.
Mhm.
Because finally, finally Barnes made a decision, and Brakefield got at least two straight buckets on Meshack, maybe a third. And then we went back to Okpara, and Okpara was hibachi chicken too. It just is what it is. Like
Yeah, I mean,
it was like a video game. Like he found a player that was hot, and he was
yeah,
like, "I'm not giving it to anybody else until they stop him," and we pretty much didn't.
yeah. No, he did. I mean, you got to give him credit. And the thing that aggravated me after the game, I want to go back to this point, was people were talking about this scrub Ole Miss team. This bad. They're not a scrub team. They are a legitimate NCAA tournament team. I don't think they're a legitimate contender to go to the Final Four, but who knows? They might get hot. I don't think they will, but depending on the matchups, what happens, they might, but they're not a bad team. It was on now. If it happened in Knoxville, I probably would have been on the side of, that's not a great loss. But the other thing was Barnes didn't make any adjustments. Well, what is he supposed to do? He tried four different defenders on this guy. I don't know if go to a zone, maybe. I don't know. Tennessee never plays zone. Why would we go to a zone? We never play zone. This is one of those games. I wasn't mad that we lost. Um, it did
Also,
stink
speaking of
because
speaking of zone, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. We had absolutely nothing for that 1-3-1 either.
no, we didn't.
That was part of the drought that we went like 6 minutes without a field goal. I think we had four straight possessions. We had three turnovers and like a forced or blocked layup. Yeah, it was horrendous.
We'll lump the South Carolina game into this discussion because it kind of goes hand in hand. Tennessee was up in that game 23-13 in the first half and then allowed South Carolina to finish the half on I think a 21-11 run to tie it up at the half. Um we were talking like Cruz texted me and was like, why does Tennessee continue to have these, like, they look so good and then they come down for 4 or 5 straight possessions and they just look totally lost. I think sometimes they're so, and we talked about this for 2 or 3 years on here at different points. They're so unselfish and they look for the perfect shot. This is my opinion. I don't know if that's what they're actually doing. To me, it seems like they're looking for the perfect shot and they continue to be unselfish. They're passing the basketball. Like, I've got a good shot, but he might have a better one, so I'm going to get it to him and work through the offense. And you looked up on Saturday, a lot of the possessions there's 5 seconds on the shot clock, and they haven't even done anything except pass the ball on the perimeter. I just think sometimes they get bogged down offensively, and I think South Carolina went to some type of a zone there at some point yesterday. Um, but then Chaz Lanier, again, I said yesterday in the second half, where's Chaz Lanier? Like, I didn't know he was on the court. Well, we soon found out he was on the court because he just went absolutely blistering hot from the field. I think he hit like 2 or 3 3-pointers in a row. You could just tell, like, give me the ball and get out of my way. That's what we need out of that guy. I'm not saying we need it for 40 minutes, but at different points in the game, if Tennessee's struggling to score, he needs to force the issue a little bit more. I think sometimes he just, it's the Tennessee way under Rick Barnes. They're just a little passive. It's not about me, and they won't work through the system. But sometimes you need to be a little selfish because his bad shots are probably better than some other people's good shots. And sometimes I feel like we get so bogged down and it gets late in the shot clock and we're forcing the basketball up and it's not a good shot. That's I didn't think they played all that poorly this week. It's just Tennessee basketball. They're going to go through some droughts during the game. Their defense is always going to be pretty good, even though they've had some lapses. I talked about it on X the other night after the Ole Miss game. For a program whose DNA is defense, they sure couldn't find a stop against Ole Miss the other night when they needed it. I mean, they could not find a couple 2 or 3 stops in a row to take that game over, and they just couldn't. And that's happened several in all their losses this year. Look back at them. The both Kentucky games could not find stops. Obviously, they didn't stop Florida much down there in Gainesville at all the whole game. But take that one out. Look at the other 4, 5. I mean, there's just key stretches where they could not stop the opposing team, and that happens in basketball some. But for a team whose DNA is that's what's been frustrating me, and I've talked about it on here for the last few weeks. Is the defense to me is still very good, very elite, obviously number one in the country, but it just doesn't. It seems like they have lapses at different points during the game. It's not that sustained defense. Again, I don't think it's anything to worry about. The offense is the one that it stresses me out sometimes because you see him go through stretches where They look like I said it, the 96 Bulls. They're playing great defense and they're scoring on offense at will. And then they go into these 5 minute where they can't even hardly get a shot up. I don't know, Harbin. I don't know.
I'm not going to pretend like I know either. Basketball is a game of runs, though.
It is.
All it is. In my opinion, momentum is the largest in college basketball than any other sport. You just got to ride the waves, And when the waves are going your way, get as much as you can. And when they're going against you, try to prevent as much as you can. But yeah, I agree with you. Like when there's stretches where we give up 12 or 13 points in a 2.5, 3 minute span, and you're supposed to be a top three defensive team in the country. Yeah, it's not ideal, you know. But we're not the greatest offensive team in the country either, and we can rattle off 12 or 13 points in 2 or 3 minutes too. So it's a funny game.
Yeah, it is. Well, they found a way to win yesterday against South Carolina after the Ole Miss loss. They secured a top four seed. We were waiting on pins and needles shortly after the game to see what Auburn and Alabama's outcome would be. If Auburn won, Tennessee would move up to the 3 seed. If Alabama won, Tennessee would lock in as the number 4 seed in the tournament. And Alabama won in overtime on a Mark Sears 5-footer to send at the buzzer to send Bruce and the Tigers home. Bruce is showing up in March again. Of course, Day Day says it all the time. A lot of people like to get on Rick for his failures in March. Well, what about Bruce? He's already 0-2. We've not even got to the tournament yet. So keep that in mind. But Auburn's lost 2 in a row heading into the tournament. Alabama locked up the 3 seed. But yesterday, I wondered if some of the emotions of senior day kicked in because Tennessee had a lot of. You look at this lineup, there's going to be a lot of turnover next year, and I don't want to get into the lineup part right now because we're still playing. But Lanier, Milicic, Gainey, um, um, Ziegler,
What?
Meshack,
What?
what? I mean, all of those guys are gone unless something changes with the rules. But um, I don't know if they got a little emotional yesterday or what, but after the game, they did senior day, and you could tell it was emotional. I think they showed Rick Barnes a couple times, and he's wiping away tears, especially when Ziegler and Meshack come through the line, because those guys have been his heart and soul here for the last 4 years. So it's a crazy week. Jemiah Meshack was given the which is an exclusive award, the Torchbearer Award for UT, which goes to students. So big week for the Vols. I mean, wrapped up. I would think kind of locked in the number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. I don't know what between 5 and 8, what number they'll be, but they'll be a 2 seed no matter what happens in Nashville this week. But closed out the season 12-6. I think you and I talked before the season. We thought Tennessee would have what 6, 7 losses in the conference, and that's what they had.
I don't know if we said 6 or 7, but I mean, we said it was possible. But one prediction we did get wrong is we said that the champion would probably have 4 losses.
Yeah.
Auburn had 2. That's a hell of a year. I will tip my cap to Auburn. 2 losses, 16-2 in the SEC this year that's
Honestly, I thought the champ might have 5 or 6 losses. So I thought Tennessee would have anywhere from 6 to 7 losses. But not I didn't predict Tennessee to win the championship, but
yeah.
I didn't think we would be 4 games back
No, I did not either.
or 5 or 3, whatever it was.
There's a lot of parity. What's Missouri in the latest AP poll? Aren't they like 16?
Something like that. I don't know right
Well,
off the top of my head.
they're number 7 in the SEC tournament. So
Yeah. Well, it's like you look at Tennessee, they're ranked in most polls and in analytics, they're 5th. Well, they're the 4th seed in the SEC tournament. So, I mean, you look, Auburn's the 1 seed. They're number 1 or 2 in analytics and human polls. Florida's number 4. They're the 2 seed. Tennessee's number 5. They're the 4 seed. Alabama's number 6. They're the 3 seed. You go down to Kentucky. I don't know what they're ranked in like the AP poll or anything, but they're 11th in Ken Palm and they're the 6th seed in the SEC. It's crazy. It's wild, Harbin.
It is wild,
So,
go ahead, sorry.
oh, I was gonna say one stat you shared. I can't remember if you actually said it on the show last week or after we got through recording, but I don't. No champion has been ranked outside the top 21 in offense and defense in Ken Palm era. Is that
Top top.
explain that?
So since they've started tracking Ken Palm, uh, or I don't remember when the range was, but it said 96% of the champions in this range, which I think it's at least 20 years. And I did bring this up last week. All of them but one are or were going into the tournament were ranked in the top 21 in Ken Palm rating for offense and top 31 in defense. So it's the 21-31 rule.
Well, so the other night, I think after we recorded this a few days ago, I texted you and I was, hey, Tennessee's moved up. We were, as of like 3 weeks ago, we were number 38th in offensive efficiency rating. I was like, hey, we're number 21 and we're number 1 on defense. And you're like, we're contenders. We're number 22 now. Is that close enough or are we done?
Um, Got to be top 21, but you have the tournament to get you there. So
True.
throw up an 85 piece against maybe A&M, Vandy, or Texas. It could get you there. But the magic number is 21. We're obviously not going to fall 30 something spots in defense. But
No.
you know, a hot hand or two going into the tournament, you're a contender. And we were ranked in the top 12 in the Week 6 AP poll, which every single champion has been for the last since 03 or 4.
Let's see who's around us that's above us. So number 20 in offensive efficiency, or sorry, number 21 in offensive efficiency is Mississippi State. Number 20 is North Carolina. And number 19 is Villanova. 18 is Clemson. Right behind us at 23 is Iowa. 24 is Oklahoma. And 25 is Vanderbilt. So I think we could move a little bit, hopefully up instead of down, but
None of those teams you mentioned are contenders outside of Clemson.
no.
Clemson falls into the 21-31 rule as of right now.
Yes, they're 21st defensively, 18th offensively.
They're good.
26 and 5. They're good. How did South Carolina beat them?
Rivalry.
That kind of blows my mind, but
And in my opinion, South Carolina's not terrible. They just have they just played really good teams all year or conference play.
update us quickly, Harbin, on your stat that you brought us last week where Tennessee's opponent, who they play next, where do we stand with that after this week?
Yeah, so as we last spoke, Tennessee or SEC teams in their first game directly after playing Tennessee had lost 6 in a row. The one that I warned y'all about was Alabama hosting Florida. And hopefully, I believe Ethan Rimmer took my advice.
I
Hopefully,
did too. I did too.
Neese took my advice. Hopefully, everyone that has a betting account took my advice and took Florida money line in Tuscaloosa because Florida took down the Tide. Bama lost 2 in a row. And I hope you took my advice again. I actually took my own advice on this one. Florida hosted Ole Miss in the swamp on Saturday. The line was 12.5, which I was a little iffy about that line. But I took it anyway, and Florida beat Ole Miss by 20. So as of right now, Going into the conference tournament, the tally is now at 8 in a row. And I believe that sets the total at 5-12 for the year.
I think it's about what you said last time.
Yeah. So SEC teams are 5-12 on the season. Their first game after playing Tennessee. The Tennessee hangover.
I think
Jack,
there's something there. I mean,
it's like Jack Daniels, bro.
it, it was it made
And the trend will probably hold if Arkansas beats South Carolina on Wednesday.
on paper it should, but we'll
On
see.
paper. Now, bringing up the tournament, you want to do a little challenge between you and me, see how many games we can get correctly?
Let's do it. So I tell you what, let's go game by game. We'll not like break down the game. We'll just pick game by game. So let me get the bracket pulled back up here. So it starts on Wednesday. Usually on Wednesday, there's just two games. There's the 7 o'clock and 9:30 game that no one cares about in the SEC tournament. Well, there's two more teams in the tournament or in the league, so that's extended the event on Wednesdays. Now there's four games on Wednesday afternoon and night, so a little bit extra basketball for us to enjoy. I don't know if you want to enjoy some of these games, but should be entertaining because in years past, the Wednesday game is usually between four teams that aren't going anywhere. They're not even in consideration for the NCAA tournament. That is not the case this year in the SEC tournament. Just glancing at it very quickly on Wednesday, there's Arkansas. I don't know where Texas is at, but Vandy's probably in. Arkansas's on the bubble. Texas is on the bubble. Mississippi State's in, even though they've kind of faltered as of late. Oklahoma's on the bubble. And Georgia, I think, is safely in at this point. So you've got a total of one, two, three, four, five, six teams that are in the conversation for the NCAA tournament playing on Wednesday night. So there's a lot to watch here on Wednesday night. Wednesday. We'll start with the first game, 1 o'clock Eastern, noon Central, for those of you in the Central time zone listening, for our peeps out in Nashville or wherever you may be listening out in the Central time zone. South Carolina versus Arkansas. 16 seed South Carolina versus number 9 seed Arkansas. Who do you got, Harb?
I think you've got to go Arkansas just off of math. Arkansas is coming in playing well. They've won their last two. They won at Vandy, beat Mississippi State at home, but they did lose at South Carolina by 19. So it's something to keep an eye on. Um, I just don't see. I really don't see Calipari losing to that team twice.
I don't either. I
So
take Arkansas.
I'll take Arkansas as well.
Give me the Hogs. They'll advance on to play Ole Miss on Thursday, the 8-9 matchup. The next game of the day, number 13 Texas versus number 12 Vandy. This could be an intriguing game.
I think it's a very intriguing game. Vandy beat them in their matchup this year, but Vandy's lost their last two going into the tournament. I think they're sputtering a little bit. I think Vandy's in.
Last
Uh,
I saw, they were a 10 seed.
I like Texas. It's
Ooh.
off the cuff. I like Texas.
You like the Longhorns to pick up their first win ever in the SEC tournament.
I do. I do. Give me Texas. It sets up an old school rivalry game against A&M.
Interesting. Well, this game is in Nashville, so not technically on Vandy's home court, but it is in their home city, although they have very few fans. So I can't imagine there'll be a lot of black and gold there in the Bridgestone Arena, home of the Nashville Predators. Um, I don't know. I like Vandy in this one. I think it'll be a. I think this game might come down to the wire, down to the buzzer, may even go to overtime. Um, I don't know. I just think Vandy's probably a tick better than them than Texas at this point. I wonder if if Texas goes one and done, if they bring back their coach next year, if they don't get in the tournament, he's just not gotten anything going there in Austin. What do you think?
I don't know if they'll fire him this year. They may give him one more year. They may view this as a transition year.
True. Well, true. Yeah, coming into a new conference, always tough. I don't know, Harb. You might be right on that Texas thing, but I'm going to take Vandy just for argument's sake.
Fair enough.
Matchup predictor has Texas as 62.1% favorites,
Hmm.
by the way. So
Okay.
take that for what it's worth. So Harb takes the Longhorns. Negative Niece takes which I'm ashamed to say, the Commodores. But anyways. All right, next game up is somebody. Where'd it go?
LSU,
Oh,
Mississippi State.
yeah. LSU, 15 seed LSU versus 10 seed Mississippi State Bulldogs. Who do you got?
LSU hasn't won since February 18th,
Really? That's right.
and it was a home game against South Carolina, the other bottom feeder. But they've lost to Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Kentucky, and A&M. So it's not like, I mean, they've lost to five of the best teams in the conference for the most part. I still like Mississippi State. Mississippi State's good. They're just better than LSU. I think they're more organized. I don't know if it's a blowout, but I like Mississippi State.
I like Mississippi State too. LSU's not very good. I just sometimes you got to pick who's better.
Just is
Mississippi State's better basketball team than LSU, and for unfortunately for LSU right now at least. So they'll move on and face Missouri. Either Texas or Vandy will move on and face Texas A&M on Thursday. I forgot to mention that. A final game of Wednesday night is the 14 seed Oklahoma Sooners versus the 11 seed Georgia Bulldogs. Who you got, Harb? Bulldogs or Sooners?
Give me the Sooners. I think they're playing for their season right now. I think they're trying to get at least one, maybe two more quad one wins to get them into the solidify them into the tournament. And I think Georgia's going to play hard too, obviously, but I think they're in.
They
I think
are.
they're I think they're pretty much in right now. I don't think a loss to Oklahoma knocks them out. Just for that sake, Oklahoma pretty much has to win this game. So give me Oklahoma.
I'm gonna take Georgia. I think they're playing really well right now.
They are.
Oklahoma is too. I mean, they're both. This could be a really good game as well because both of these teams, especially on Oklahoma's end, they're fighting for their postseason lives. But both of these teams have been playing well down the stretch. Their records may not indicate it as much, but Georgia's, I think, won what 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6, something like that. They're playing really well right now. I'm kind of glad they're in not our part of the bracket, to be honest, because I wouldn't want to face him. Lenardi has Oklahoma as his last four in currently. He also has Arkansas. Just keep this in mind. Arkansas is the last four by, so Arkansas has to beat South Carolina on Wednesday. Probably needs to beat Ole Miss to solidify their spot on Thursday, but we'll get to that. So Texas is first four out, by the way, according to Lenardi. I know there's other services out there that you may read. I just pulled that one up very quickly. So Harb's got Oklahoma in that game. I've got Georgia. So we're going to move on to Thursday. We both picked Arkansas over South Carolina. They'll face the 8 seed Ole Miss Rebels, who Tennessee just lost to on Wednesday night. And then they lost to Florida on Saturday. Arkansas versus Ole Miss, old school SEC West rivalry. Who do you got?
I have no idea. Uh,
John Calipari versus Chris Beard.
Solid matchup.
Solid coaching matchup.
Yeah, very solid. I think Ole Miss is better. Um, God, I hate to just go chalk, but give me Ole Miss. I just think they're a little bit better than Arkansas is. This has potential to like steal the show on Thursday, though. I feel like it could be a very good game.
I'm taking Ole Miss as well, but I think you're right. I think it's going to be a very good game. I just think Ole Miss is a little bit better
Yeah, I do too.
than Arkansas. All right, well, let's move on to the next game, shall we? Texas A&M, the 5 seed, in your bracket will play Texas, and my bracket will play Vanderbilt. So, for your sake, Texas A&M versus Texas, big rivalry game here. Who do you got?
This makes no sense, but it's March. Give me the Longhorns.
Man, you got
Uh,
the Longhorns rolling here.
you cannot go chalk in this tournament with as good as all the teams are. You just can't. A&M's good. They've kind of limped into the tournament just a hair, um, which Texas has too. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. What I've learned with March basketball is sometimes what makes the least sense is what happens. So give me Texas.
So I've got Vandy versus Texas A&M. Vandy beats Texas A&M. Texas A&M limping around right now.
So Vandy goes 2-0 on the season against A&M. Is that what
Yes,
you're telling me?
yes. I think they advance and beat Texas A&M on Thursday.
So we're both just shitting on Buzz Williams right now.
And I like Buzz Williams, but yes, I am.
Well, for all the betters out there, when this does happen, you put your life savings on Texas A&M.
Yeah, yes.
We just gave Texas A&M the golden ticket to play Tennessee.
Travis Bell, if you're listening, he asked me my opinion on some of his bets yesterday. Do the opposite of what Harb and I just said. You'll be a
Yeah,
rich man, Bell.
yeah, A&M is 1,000% winning.
Chalk. Although I did give him, he asked me about St. John's versus Marquette. And I said, I'll take St. John's plus 3.5. Well, it took overtime, but they won.
They did.
But I also picked Auburn minus 7.5 against Bama. That didn't happen. So, and I took the over in the North Carolina Duke game. That didn't happen either. So I was 1 for 2 on the day, Bill. Don't take my advice. Let's see. So the next matchup, we both had Mississippi State winning to advance and play 7 seed Missouri Tigers. Talk about a team limping in.
Yeah.
I'm honestly shocked they didn't drop further. At one point, they were the 4 seed in the SEC tournament, but over the last three, I think they've lost like 5 out of 6, but they're still in seventh spot. So who do
Since
you,
since beating Alabama, they've lost 4 out of 5.
yeah. So they're the 7 seed taking on 10 seed Mississippi State. Do the Bulldogs or the Tigers take this one, Harb?
I'm rolling with Missouri. I think they bounce back a little bit. Missouri's a good basketball team. I think they catch fire on offense. I think this has potential to be a high scoring game, or at least on Missouri's side. I think Missouri eclipses the 80-point mark in a victory.
I agree. I think Missouri. I don't. I'm not a big. I was a fan of Mississippi State early on in the season. I'm not. I've kind of soured on them. I think they're an NCAA tournament team, but I don't really think they'll do anything once they get there. Again, pick at your own peril from what I'm saying, but I don't. I'm not a big fan of Mississippi State right now. There's something about them. They seem disjointed a lot. I don't know, but I think Missouri takes this one and advances to play the 2 seed Florida on Friday. Last game of the night on Thursday will be you had Oklahoma advancing to play Kentucky. I had Georgia advancing to play Kentucky. So Oklahoma versus UK. Who do you got?
Well, the last time these two teams played, it was really, really fun. It was high scoring, a lot of flash. I think it was 83-82 in Rupp, barn burner. I think this has just as much potential to be exactly like that again. It's the nightcapper. What time's this game slated to start?
It says 9:30 Eastern, but it's also 30 minutes after the game before him is completed. So it could be later than that on the East Coast.
Yeah, the Midnight Madness in March. It's got it written all over it. I'm going to refrain from picking Oklahoma because I really want to. I'm going to go with Kentucky. But I do think it's a very good game, and you may want to stay up for this one.
Hmm.
It'll be very good.
Ooh, stay up, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it's for daily use.
I'm taking the Wildcats too. I just think they'll hit a bunch of threes against Oklahoma. I don't know if Oklahoma winning one game against Georgia might be enough to get them in the dance, but we'll see. But if they want to make sure they're in the dance, I think a win over Kentucky might do it. So should be another great game. I just think this whole tournament's going to be like this. I mean, we're just on day two, so we still got 2 more days to go in this thing. But I've got Kentucky, and so do you. So we're going to move on to Friday. First game of the day. One seed Auburn versus, I think we both had Ole Miss, correct?
Right.
We did. Auburn versus Ole Miss. Who do you got?
I've got to go Auburn. I mean, you just
Same. I just think,
especially especially with the last bit of basketball taste they had in their mouth was losing to their arch rival Alabama on a buzzer beater. No matter who they play in this first game, it could get ugly.
I agree. I take Auburn. I think they're going to come out. I know Bruce has had his troubles in March, but he can also motivate teams like nobody else in this country can. And I think he's going to have these guys motivated to try to win this tournament. And I think they at least win their first game. We'll see who they play in the next game, but I've got Auburn winning this one. Let's see. Next game, you had Texas winning, I think. Yes. So Harb has Texas versus the Vols. Here's our game, Harbin. Tennessee versus Texas for you. And then I've got the Vols playing Vandy. Is that right?
Correct.
Correct. Wow, big rivalry game. Tennessee and Vandy. Who do you have in the game? Tennessee versus Texas.
If we play Texas, I've got Tennessee. I think we're just better than them. We won in Austin. We can beat them in Nashville. Yeah, I mean, talent prevails in that matchup. Now, if we do play A&M, that would be a different story.
Yeah.
But I did not pick A&M, so I'm not getting into it.
There you go. Yeah, Tennessee could play Texas A&M, who's on paper, if things go chalk, Tennessee would play Texas A&M. Neither one of us have Texas A&M advancing to play Tennessee, but if they do, that game's, I mean, we saw it in College Station earlier in the year. It was a tight game. So I wouldn't expect anything less, but I've got Tennessee playing Vandy. I know we lost to Vandy at Memorial Gymnasium earlier in the season, returned the favor here in Knoxville, although it wasn't the prettiest game, but we found a way and beat them here in Knoxville. I think Tennessee on a neutral court beats Vanderbilt, even though it's in Nashville. Again, they don't have much of a fan base, but I think Tennessee beats Vandy in Nashville and advances to the semifinals versus Auburn. So we both have Tennessee advancing to play the Auburn Tigers. So we move to the night session. Two seed Florida. I think we both had Missouri advancing. Yes. So Missouri versus Florida. Friday night at Bridgestone. Who do you got?
Give me Florida. I think, well, Florida is a top, probably three team in the country, maybe four. Uh, Missouri's not.
I like Florida too. They're better. They're just better than Missouri.
I don't have any confidence in Missouri stopping Florida. I think Missouri can score with them, but I don't think they can stop them. And for that reason, I'm taking Florida. I don't think they have anything for them inside either.
Mm, I agree. Both of us are taking the Gators. Next game could be one of the better games of the tournament, Harb. We both have Kentucky winning, and they move on to face the 3 seed Alabama Crimson Tide. Who do you got?
A meteor strike.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, but for parity, give me the Wildcats.
There we go.
Uh,
Harb is taking the Wildcats against the Crimson Tide.
yeah, Kentucky's probably going to have substantially more fans there than Alabama. They always do in Nashville for this tournament. I think that could be the deciding factor. I think that's the nightcapper for Friday as well. Uh,
It is.
just fireworks because both of these teams love to score points. Could come down to whoever puts together two buckets a row in the final minute. But I'm taking Kentucky.
I'm taking Bama. I just think Bama is a tick better than Kentucky. But I will say if Kentucky comes out and hits shots like they're capable of, Bama has not they're better defensively this year than they have been in years past, but they're still not very good at different points. So um I'm taking Bama because I think they've got more talent on their roster than Kentucky. But you're right, that crowd there's always they used to call it Catlanta when the SEC tournament was in the Georgia Dome and Kentucky fans would take over. And I'm semi expecting the same thing here in Nashville this week. There's going to be a ton of Tennessee fans and a ton of Kentucky fans. I don't know how Arkansas is going to travel. They used to travel pretty well, but have been kind of down the last few years, so I don't know, what they're going to travel like. But I'm taking Bama regardless. I think they advance on to the semifinals. So now we're down to 4 teams. Tennessee versus Auburn. You've got Kentucky versus Florida, and I've got Alabama versus Florida. So we'll start with the Vols and the Auburn Tigers, a rematch of the game back in February, I believe. Tennessee lost 53 to 51 at Auburn. Who do you got? Bruce versus Rick. Who do you got?
I think this is a game that will piss a lot of people off. I think Tennessee comes out and obviously has a better offensive performance than the last time we played Auburn. I think I think it's back and forth again. I think it's just as tight as the first game, but I think we have a lead down the stretch and we go cold and Auburn takes it out from under us once again. Uh, I'm just calling it that way. I'm not as mad, which isn't going to work because I'm still going to be pissed off if this does happen.
All right.
I think Auburn wins a barn burner, a tight one, maybe controversial even. Uh,
Ooh,
yeah, I think they skate by.
interesting. I hate to do this, but I'm going to take Auburn as well.
Lord, I need to start picking second. We're picking the same teams every time.
I just don't have a good feeling Tennessee versus Auburn. I don't know what it is. Maybe we do beat them. I don't know. It's just when you get to this point in this tournament, like, you're going to probably end up playing somebody good. We were talking yesterday. Obviously, it's
Way to go out on a limb,
yeah,
then.
way to go out on a limb. But we were talking yesterday. It's like, man, I'd like to see Tennessee move up to the 3 seed. And I was like, you know what? Who cares? Do you want to play Auburn or do you want to play Florida or Alabama? Like, that's what you're. You want to play Auburn or do you want to play Florida in the semifinals if you get there? That's what you're asking. Like, who cares? Like, you're going to play a good team one way or another. Um, I just I'm taking Auburn because they'll probably be favored. The matchup predictor will probably pick them to win. Analytics say Auburn's a little bit better than Tennessee, so I'm going to take Auburn. And we're picking the same teams, so I'll pick the next game first. How about that?
I don't even think we have the same two teams. Do we both have Florida? Oh no, no, we don't even have the same teams.
No, we don't, so it doesn't matter.
But you pick our team.
Yeah, I've got Bama versus Florida. You've got Kentucky versus Florida, right?
Right.
So I'm going to take Florida. I'm just going to say I think Florida beats Alabama. And they just beat them. They just beat them last on Wednesday. So there you go.
Defying all logic because it feels like Kentucky can't really put a big, significant streak in order, but it's March, and I think those kids love Mark Pope. I know the fan base does. I just think they get hot this week.
Man, so you got the Wildcats.
I do. Like they are live and die by their offensive production. And when they're scoring, not many teams can beat them. Like, let's just lay it out there. But when they're not, anybody can beat them. Which I do think they fall flat on their face in the big dance. I will go ahead and say that right now. But give me Kentucky. It's a little bit of a rivalry game. I think they outscore Florida in a shootout. They benefit from having the late game every single night in this tournament.
Yeah, don't forget about that. And that's one thing to think about when you head into Sunday is whoever comes from that bottom side of the bracket is going to play the second game on Saturday and turn around and not that I mean you're talking 2 or 3 hours difference in rest. Um, but they're going to turn around and they've been playing night games for 2 nights in a row, plus a later afternoon game than the teams up top. Um, so you've got Auburn and Kentucky. I've got Florida versus Auburn in the championship game. I think Auburn wins the title. I don't know why. I just think they beat Florida. They've been the class of the SEC all season, whether you like them or not. And I don't like them for personal reasons, but I think Auburn beats Florida. I think it's going to be a classic game, though. I think two top five teams playing each other for the SEC title. I mean, if you look back, if it's Tennessee versus Florida, or Auburn versus Florida, or Tennessee versus Bama, or Tennessee versus Florida, just think of those four teams if they advance on. I know you have Kentucky advancing, but think if those four teams run through and get to the championship game in one of those combos, and you've got two teams playing each other in top five in the country for the SEC title.
Yeah,
So it's going to be really electric there in Bridgestone.
absolutely. And inversely, if Kentucky does make it, as much as we hate them, it's just going to be just as electric.
Oh yeah, or even to a greater extent.
Yeah, it's going to sound like a Kentucky home game if they do make it, but Auburn's just better than them.
They
And
are.
it just is what it is. I hate going chalk and picking Auburn because I really don't think they're going to win this tournament. I know it sounds stupid because I just picked my bracket and I got Auburn winning, but I think I, which this sounds dumb, but I would take the field if you offered me the field versus Auburn in this tournament. Um, but yeah, if it comes down to Auburn versus Kentucky, like we said, I'll go ahead and break this down analytically if you want me to. But like we said, Kentucky played night games all the way through, and then they get to Sunday and they play at what 1 o'clock? Is that normally when it is?
It's 1 o'clock. Yes.
Yeah. You get three straight night games, and then you got to turn around and play at 1 o'clock against the best team in the country. Yeah, it's tough.
Tough. That's tough.
It is what it is. Yeah, Auburn would win that game.
So we both have Auburn winning the championship, but variations of how we get to that point. I'll post these for the world to see. Like Bane said, hang them for the world to see, so the world can see our picks and follow along at peril with who we pick and how we pick. I just think this tournament, I don't normally like get excited about the SEC tournament until maybe the semifinals. But this year's totally different. I mean, from top to bottom, with the exclusion of South Carolina and LSU, everybody else is in the NCAA tournament picture. Whether they're on the bubble, they're out, or they're in. They're in the conversation. So there's a lot to play for beginning on Wednesday night or Wednesday for all of these teams. Like I said, 6 out of the 8 playing on Wednesday are either on the bubble, last four in, first four buys, whatever it is, they're in the conversation. So I just think this tournament could be one of the best tournaments we've ever watched for a variety of reasons. I want to get your opinion very quickly on this because this has come up a couple different times with me, with a couple different people. Should teams like, and I heard them talking about this on the South Carolina, or maybe it was the Ole Miss game the other night. Should teams like Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, Alabama even care about the SEC tournament? Because if you think about it, like in our case, we have to win 3 games in 3 days. We've done it before. It didn't really help our seeding in the past. I don't know that it's going to change any seeding now for the NCAA tournament. I mean, it's just a trophy. There's a trophy on the line. So it's hard. It's hard for me to say this when there's a trophy on the line, but should either of those 4 teams in particular care about this tournament? I mean, friend of the show, well, I shouldn't say friend of the show. He never listened, so he won't hear this, but buddy of ours, Josh Walker, he said Tennessee needs to make the championship game. Like they need, in capital letters, need to make the championship game. I asked him why. And he said, well, they need positive momentum heading into the tournament. And I said, well, they didn't last year. Neither did Alabama. Tennessee went to the Elite Eight. Alabama went to the Final Four. They both lost on Thursday of the SEC tournament. So I'm not saying should they care, but should they be upset if they lose? Like if Tennessee lost on Thursday to Vandy or Texas A&M. I know. I remember last year. I don't know. I don't think you came on. I think I did one on my own after the game, a reaction. I was not happy, but then I sat back later that night and I was like, you know what? We lost to Mississippi State. They're probably going to the tournament. Who cares? And it didn't matter. It didn't matter. It just stunk that we were out there one and done and we played poorly. But should these? I'm just saying these top 4 teams should they care?
Yeah, they absolutely should care, and they do care. I think that's a I think that's a dumbass narrative, honestly. Uh, if you're playing for a trophy, and especially in a 16 team field as good as this one, you should absolutely care. I mean, you go 2.5 months of trying to beat these guys all the time, and now you're actually in a bracket format, and now you're supposed to not care. I just don't agree with that whatsoever. Inversely, though, there may be a little bit of a benefit if you do get knocked out early. You know, get a little bit of rest. Like you said during the Ole Miss broadcast, they brought up how Tennessee and Alabama both lost on Friday, I think it was,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and they both were in the final 8. You know, so I think every team's different. Some teams respond to getting punched in the mouth better than others, and some teams respond to punching somebody in the mouth better than others. It just kind of depends. But as far as caring goes, hell yeah, they should care. I think it's dumb for even insinuating that you shouldn't care. Whether it helps in your seeding or not. Now, I will say, if Tennessee wins this tournament with wins over Auburn, and if you beat Florida, that means you got 2 out of 3 against them. Or if you beat Alabama, that means you went 2-0 against them. It'd be really hard to not bump Alabama over Florida or Alabama. I mean, Tennessee over Florida or Alabama in that instance, if that does happen. And if you're Rick Barnes and company, you kind of got to look at it like that. Like, even though you did lose to Ole Miss and you've lost a couple games that you shouldn't have, you beat the number 1 team in the country. And more than likely, unless something goes wild, Florida and Alabama are going to play each other in the semis. So one of them is going to lose. And if you beat the team that won that game, you've definitely got the most momentum out of those 3 teams that are vying for that last 1 seed. I think and I understand the committee is not putting a whole lot of weight into the SEC tournament over years, but with as good as this field is, they may look at it, and with as what you like to call razor thin margins between Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee, The SEC tournament may be a deciding factor. And I think right now Tennessee is probably number three out of Alabama, Florida, and Tennessee in the committee's eyes. But like I said, you get a win over Auburn, you end up splitting with them on the season, and you either go 2-0 against Bama or 2-1 against Florida and win the SEC tournament. It's gonna be really hard for the committee not to give you that last one seed. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, because right now the one seeds are Florida, Houston, Auburn, and Duke. Tennessee is a two seed. Last I saw, we were like number five overall seed, but I've seen others where we're number six. So going back to my question, should teams care? I think they should care. I just don't think there should be any panic, alarm, or being pissed off and going on about how we lost to this team or that team. If Tennessee loses on Friday, the main goal is to get to San Antonio and to try to cut down the nets in the Alamo Dome. I get it. We want to win the SEC championship, and it would suck if we don't. But the grand prize is that Final Four logo. I wish they would put a Final Four logo up in these arenas, Harbin. When you win the championship, you point at it like the WrestleMania logo. That's the main goal is to get to San Antonio to the Final Four. And that's where all of our hopes and dreams lie. And like I'm just again, I say this all the time, like I was never mad that we lost to Ole Miss. I mean, I shouldn't say I was happy, but it just like I refuse to get mad or upset when you lose to a good team on the road in a hostile environment. It kind of does stink. It leaves you with a little bit of a bitter taste in your mouth, like last year when we lost to Mississippi State in the SEC tournament. And you're going into that first round game against St. Francis, and you know you're going to beat them, but you're like, God, we just lost to Mississippi State last time we played. Like, I hope we play better than that. And they did. Of course, they were playing that is a scrub team. Um, and then went on to beat Texas in the round of 32. Didn't play particularly well, but whatever. But I would love to see Tennessee make some noise and win the tournament, especially in a field this deep. If you win this tournament, I think it means a little bit more. No pun intended. It just means more. But you win this tournament, that's home. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say it's like, is it harder to win this tournament than the NCAA tournament? I don't know about that, but you have to win less games. But this is a loaded field. Like I said, 14 of the 16 teams are in NCAA tournament consideration. At least 12 of them are solidly in. So there's that. But I don't think teams like Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, Florida should not care. But if they lose, I don't think they should be upset or distraught. They just got to rest up, move on, and get ready for the big dance because that's the ultimate goal is the big dance that starts the week after that. But it should be fun. I mean, there's going to be. I'm gonna have two TVs set up here in the studios to watch all these games, plus the quad view going on YouTube. So it's gonna be a busy weekend of basketball watching. Hard.
For sure. It's like you said, we're heading into one of the best stretches for sports in the year. You know, because this rolls right. We got the players this weekend. We also have
Yes.
obviously the SEC tournament that we spent an hour talking about. Uh, Rolls right into the Masters and the NCAA tournament, obviously, and rolls straight into NBA playoffs and opening day of baseball. Great time to be alive.
Very quickly before we hit the road here, Tennessee baseball swept St. Bonaventure. They're over the weekend. They're still undefeated. Fun fact, Harb, they have hit 49 home runs in 16 games. Tennessee has, leading the country. No shock. How many runs do you think they've allowed? 35. We've allowed 35 runs. We've hit 14 more home runs and runs allowed this season.
May I try to guess how many runs we've scored? And I have zero idea.
I don't know how many we scored. I don't know that answer. So you can guess, but I won't have an answer for you without
That's
me having to add it up.
16 games. I bet we've scored 183,
Probably close.
which
It's
is
a lot.
yeah.
I went down there to the Friday, Saturday game. This team just overpowered St. Bonaventure. Pitching, just rolling guys left and right onto the mound, throwing 95 plus. Guys in the lineup hitting bombs every which way. I think the NCAA record for grand slams by a team in a season is 14. I think Tennessee's up to 9 now after Saturday night. Manny Marion hit a grand slam to walk it off in the seventh. I think it's getting to the point where Tony Vitello is frustrated with all the run rule games because he's wanting to play 9 innings so he can get some of these guys. He's got such a deep bench. He's wanting to get some of these guys some at bats and some playing time, and he can't do it because they keep run ruling everybody. But we'll see. They've got a tough start to the SEC season coming up this weekend. Florida comes to Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Hopefully the weather changes. It looks like there's some rain and thunderstorms in the forecast for this weekend, but excited to get to Lindsey Nelson. And I mean, I would like it if we run ruled Florida, but I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, big series this weekend against the Florida Gators. I don't know what they're ranked. I'm sure they're top 10. But there are only now two undefeated teams left in college baseball, for those who are wondering. One of them is obviously Tennessee Vols, 16-0. And the last is our old friends from Tallahassee, Harb, the Florida State Seminoles.
Hmm.
Two teams who met in the College World Series twice last year, once in controversial fashion. And Florida is, well, they don't have their ranking on here. Well, I don't know what they're ranked. I'm sure they're great. Sure, they're top 10, like everybody else in the SEC. It's like the minor leagues basically anymore. Let's see. D1 baseball top 25 rankings. Tennessee is number 2. Florida's number 7.
It's number one.
LSU.
LSU.
With one loss, by the way.
And with a new coach.
Yes.
Because old boy went to South Carolina, correct?
No, he had retired already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he had retired already. Top 10 right now. Well, this is as of March 2nd. That's not updated. Well, I don't know. Tennessee's number 2. LSU was number 1 this week, but they also lost. Um, I expect Tennessee to probably be number 1 in the rankings this week, but who knows with voting. That's why I don't really care much for voting polls. You all know my stance on that. But anyways. All right, everybody. Enjoy championship week. Whatever tournament you're watching, whether it's the SEC tournament, whether it's the ACC tournament, the Big 10, the Big 12, the SoCon. I watched the what was it this afternoon? Harb. It was Lipscomb versus North Alabama. Lipscomb won to advance to the big dance. I can't remember the tournament, but I love these small tournaments in these small gyms and arenas. It's so awesome. Went down to, speaking of tournaments, went down to Fulton High School the other night. The Carter Hornets took on Fulton Falcons for the region championship. Fulton outlasted the Hornets 58-53. Hornets aren't done. They travel on Monday night to number 1 seed Greenville. That's going to be a tough matchup, but the Hornets are a good team. I got faith in Coach Kate and the boys going up there. Somebody said Greenville's got a player. He's a tough matchup, and I said so do we. I mean, we had a kid, Chris Cowan, Moo they call him, the other night. Nobody for Fulton could guard him, but we had a bad quarter there in the third quarter. But the Hornets are still alive if they can find a way to beat Greenville on their home court on Monday night. They'll advance to Murfreesboro to the Murphy Center to get a chance to go for that gold ball. Fulton's hosting Unicoi County. It was kind of Carter needed to win on Thursday night. Hosting Unicoi County is a lot better than going up Interstate 81 to Greenville. So we'll see. Hopefully they can find a way to pull out a win and get us to Murfreesboro here in a couple weeks. So we'll see. But it was a great game, great atmosphere Thursday night down there at Fulton. Um, went down there and watched that game Thursday night. It's my favorite time of year, Harbin. Championship basketball season.
Oh, absolutely. Nothing like it.
Everybody enjoy it. Friday, Thursday, start on Wednesday. Watch basketball on Wednesday. What? Thursday? That's what I'm going to say on Sunday or Monday when I go to work next week. What'd you do this weekend? I watched basketball on Wednesday,
What?
Thursday,
What?
Friday,
What?
Saturday,
What?
Sunday.
What?
That's all I'm doing this weekend. Basketball. Well, probably go watch Tennessee play baseball too. What?
Hell yeah.
We need the rattlesnake back for WrestleMania, Harbin. It's is it going to happen? Is he the third man? Ooh. Will he help Cody Rhodes or will he help The Rock? Is he going to sell out corporate?
I think he comes out to help Cody Rhodes, but turns on his ass
Oh,
because the Stone Cold character hates Triple H.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of, I think it's setting up for like Triple H versus The Rock type deal. I mean, they're not going to wrestle, obviously, but that kind of feud. I think that's just where I see this going.
And have you seen John Cena, his memes he's been posted on Instagram? A lot of Stone Cold Steve Austin memes.
I was the one that sent you those.
Yes, you were. And I saw him too, and Grub and I were talking about him, but intriguing. If the rattlesnake comes to WrestleMania, I might lose my mind because he's my favorite wrestler of all time, the rattlesnake.
Or he comes out and acts like he's going to help Cena, and he stuns him and The Rock.
And then walks off.
And
Rides
then,
his four wheel. You think he rides his four wheeler down? Because that's a long walk down that WrestleMania ramp.
oh, it'd definitely be four wheeler.
A four wheeler.
And then, if Stone Cold sides with Cody Rhodes, The Rock started with this, and then when John Cena came, it turned to this, and all that leaves is the tribal chief.
Yeah, I was wondering where has he been? I thought he'd be back by now for.
Vacation? Hell, he works less than John Cena.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Oh, no, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
yeah, it
WWE.
will.
All right.
It will. And this is going to last. I think this story lasts. I mean, obviously, Cena's got 10 months left. This story is going to last all year long. So you got SummerSlam to come and Survivor Series. It's might be where it concludes as Survivor Series. We'll see. But anyways, appreciate everybody listening, whether you're watching or listening. If you're watching, remember to get on the YouTube channel, like and subscribe, comment, share. If you're listening, you can find us anywhere you get your podcast. I think most people get us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But appreciate everybody listening. Enjoy basketball this week. It's going to be awesome. Tennessee plays on Friday versus either Texas A&M or Texas or Vanderbilt, according to me and Harb, or could be somebody else. Who knows? We'll see. It's tournament time. You never know what's going to happen. But Tennessee will play Friday around 3:30, 4 o'clock on the East Coast, probably 3:30 Central Time. So if you're heading out to Nashville, take some pictures, tag us in them, put them on social media, share them with us. I do not plan on going to Nashville, so maybe that bodes well for the Vols.
It's definitely better than you going.
Yes. I would love to go if they got to Sunday, but I just don't see it happening. So I'm kind of pushing all my chips in Harbin if we go to like say Atlanta in the regions or to San Antonio for the Final Four. Kind of where I'm pushing my chips in there. So we'll see. But anyways, weather's warming up. It's golf weather. I played this weekend, had a good time, played pretty well. Lost my 52-degree wedge at Three Ridges. I left it somewhere. No one's turned it in. So if you're listening and you found a 52-degree Titleist wedge with Tennessee orange grips on them. On it, it's mine. Have no idea where it's at. I went back and retraced my steps. I don't even remember pulling it out of the bag at any point, but it's not in my bag, so sad.
But
Just maybe an excuse to go buy new clubs, Hard.
yeah, you gotta get dialed in for Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, that's coming up soon, the big golf trip. So we'll see. But Hard, appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Enjoyed it as always. And it's championship week, so everybody enjoy basketball this week. For Harb, I'm Negative Niece. You've been listening to the Section YY8 podcast.